Welcome, everybody, to Wager Talk Today. It is college football college football. Good start, Teddy? 10 out of 10 for the Prez. College basketball all day, dude. All day today. We have got a lot going on this show. Ralph Michaels will be joining us. Grambling against Montana State. Morehead State against Illinois. An incredible chart that you guys got to see. And then Bryan Power. He's going to look at New Mexico and Clemson. I'm on that game. Colorado and Boise State. That goes tonight. And then we end with Robert Veno, a future bet in college basketball and one NBA play. He's sneaking in there. Plus your big game breakdown, bro. What are you going to be talking about?
We're going to be talking about Washington State and Drake to close out Thursday night big dance. That'll be the last game on TV. And I got a bettable opinion for you. It's a client play as well. Stay tuned.
Same
right
with me.
here on Wager Talk Today.
I'm in play on that game as well, so I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Let's get it going right off the bat. Ralph Michaels joining us. Ralph, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, guys. A little out of sync being on a Wednesday, but a lot of March Madness to talk about, so very excited.
Yeah, listen, it's football season, right?
Yeah, or at least you could have said NBA or NHL to not be totally wrong, but we got the gist of it.
You know what? Speaking of totally wrong, Ralph, you segued perfectly into my bonehead 5% play last night, so I just want to apologize to everybody. I was on the Vegas Golden Knights. 3 goalposts and 2 fluky goals by Tampa, and bam, I'm a loser. Huge apology to everyone. Big sales day. Totally gutted. We didn't even respond to Teddy's text last night. That's how upset I was. But alas, we move on. Grambling +4 against Montana State. Let's start there. How are we betting this game?
Well, I mean, you look at Montana State, obviously the Big Sky, a better conference than the SWAC, but it is a very bottom-heavy conference. Montana State was 13-17 before their regular season finale. What did they do? They pulled an upset as a 5-point dog and then won all 3 tournament games as an 8.5-point dog, a 5-point favorite, and a 6.5-point dog. We often talk about, guys, in these tournaments, if you can get hot from 3, you're playing in the same venue, you're familiar with those. Well, look at how hot Montana State got to win the Big Sky title. They hit 48% from 3-point in their regular season finale. They hit 48% from 3-point in game number 1. They shot over 40% in game number 2, and then went ballistic the second half against Montana, their in-state rivals, to pull away with the win. But they were just 3-8 against the spread as a favorite this year, and they were 0-2 as a favorite away from home, 1 on the road, 1 in a neutral setting. Grambling State sort of took after the Texas Southern way to schedule. Listen, SWAC teams need to play a lot of money games early in the season. So what happens? You get beat up, you get horrific starts, but you make some money to fill your coffers. Well, they got off to an 0-10 start against D1 teams this year. But what did they do? They turned it in the rest of the way and only lost 4 additional games, getting through the SWAC conference tournament by knocking off Texas Southern. They got to the finals of the SWAC tournament last season, losing to Texas Southern, getting revenge. First ever appearance for Grambling State in the NCAA tournaments. But when I look at Grambling, when they were a favorite, they were 0-4 as a favorite of 6 or more. But when they were a dog or a small favorite, they went 17-4 against the spread, including 13-2 since January 13th. So now I have a team that is an okay 3-point defense. They're not superior, but they're not in the bottom. They're right in the middle. I know Montana State has struggled away from home. I don't expect them to be that hot. And one thing I like here is I have the tempo of Grambling State. I have the better defensive team with a tempo that's number 316 against a Bobcat team that wants to try to run and throw up threes. I think Grambling can slow him down, will slow him down. A defense good enough to keep the game close, and I'll take the +4. This, as well as Teddy and Prez, is an actual client play as well.
So you talk about taking the points, and then you make a case at the end for the under, or you expect a slower pace. Is there a reason that you chose side versus total for this one?
I do. It's just that, when I look at Montana State, we make the assumption when we're handicapping that they can't keep that streak up. But if they happen to hit some early threes, get out to an early lead, that may push Grambling State into a total. I guess you could say the same thing. If you think Montana State is going to start making those threes, why you're using the dog. So I lean the dog, Teddy, but I feel more comfortable with this Grambling State team and the way Montana State got here, being a losing team, reeling off those wins. Oh, yeah, by the way, I did go to the database. When I looked at teams that were 59% or fewer win percentage as a favorite in the NCAA tournaments, those teams are only 28% against the spread. So those teams that probably shouldn't be there or played a huge schedule and maybe had a poor record, when those teams are listed as a favorite, they have been a fade.
Ralph Michaels joining us. College basketball all show. Let's talk Morehead State against Illinois, +11.5. Teddy and I were both on Illinois on Sunday. Got a little dicey. I can't lie. It was a little dicey there, Teddy.
Never in doubt.
Never in doubt my ass, but we covered it. Ralph, where are we going in this game?
Well, if you remember last week when I was on the show, I gave out Illinois to win the Big Ten tournament. So yes, it was a low price at 3-1, but we did cash that. So happy to have done that for the viewers and the customers. So I look at this situation, and when you read what Underwood said at the end of the Big Ten tournament, and remember, he had a pretty easy run to the tournament. Beat Ohio State, didn't cover, played Nebraska, played Wisconsin. Not the upper echelon run that they had to make. But yet at the end of the tournament, Underwood said, I am so happy to not have to face Big Ten teams. So when I went to take a look, we always talk about rest versus rust in the NCAA tournament, and those teams that win those 3, 4, or 5 straight games to get to the point they have to get. Well, the Big Ten champ, the team that cuts down the nets on Sunday, on Selection Sunday, has only been 2-7 against the spread the last 9 years. It does take a lot out of those teams fighting in game after game after game scenario. NCAA tournament favorites of 10.5 or more are only 44.8%. And when an NCAA favorite of 10 or more is facing an opponent with over 6 days of rest, they are only 40.5%. I look at Morehead State, and they are a team that is a winning program, folks. This is the 4th straight season under Spradlin where they won 20-plus games. They are a 3-point shooting fiend. They are number 25 in the country in percentage of 3 points taken versus 2-point free throws. They are just one of 22 teams in the NCAA to make over 300 3-point shots this year. Illinois, number 214 in 3-point defense. That's number 13 in the Big Ten. And again, number 214 nationally. They do have a star in Minix. Minix was the OVC Player of the Year. He's someone that can compete in the middle with Illinois, because you look at Illinois, their best player, Terrence Shannon, 6'6". Minix, 6'7", same size. Illinois does have a little bit of a height advantage, but Morehead State is a very, very slow-paced team, number 335 as far as tempo goes. Illinois does want to press that pace. We'll see how much they're going to press that pace after those 5 tough days, and knowing again that they're going to have to play on Saturday. Add it all up, Morehead State plus the generous amount of points. I will be backing the Eagles on Thursday.
I want to talk about layoffs for a minute, Ralph, because to me, this is an interesting question, and I don't know the exact answer. You talked about double-digit underdogs being good off a layoff. Here we're talking about, again, most of the teams played their conference tournaments last weekend. Some of them have been off since the previous weekend, like Morehead State. Is that a concern for you when a team has an extended, when they've had more than, a week and a half, 10 days, 11 days between games, or is that really a non-factor when it comes to point spread success in the first round of the big dance?
Teddy, I had to pull up a document that I had. We're going to show a chart after this, and I am making a March Madness guide like I did weekly for Bet On It, where I'm going to have a lot of situations to talk about. I don't have it broken down as favorite, but I can tell you this. When you look at round one going back since 2012, when a team has less than 6 days rest against an opponent with at least 10 days rest, that was pretty much the divide I had of the teams that play the second week versus the teams that play the first week. Against the spread, the teams with the less rest, 34.9%. If those teams are a favorite like Illinois is, 35.3%. So there is a correlation, rest versus rust, that the rested teams have done traditionally better since 2012, and that will be in the guide with the teams that applies to this week. I'll throw them off quickly real here. This system says the fade: Illinois, Connecticut, Houston, Wisconsin, and Washington State.
Okay, there we go. Ralph, before we get into your chart, what do you have to promote for the clients?
Well, as I said, number one thing, I do have a 5% going tomorrow, but I do want you to take advantage of the free information. WagerTalk provides so much free information. I will have this guide posted on my homepage by 2 p.m. Eastern. It'll have all three charts that I did on Bet On It yesterday. It'll have the chart we listed today, plus it'll talk about the rest versus non-rest that we just talked about, teams off back-to-back losses, teams off back-to-back wins as a dog, teams off back-to-back overs, teams off back-to-back unders, all those type of situations. Again, it'll give you the situation, the actual ATS records, and the teams they apply to. WT.buzz/RM, the shortcut to my page. And again, that'll be up by 2 p.m. Eastern.
Still lots to talk about on WagerTalk today. We got Bryan Power coming up next with a couple of college basketball bets. Rob Veno as well, Teddy's big game breakdown, and I have a couple NHL plays to give out. Ralph, you've got a chart for us. I'll shut up. Let's go.
Well, the chart is the main conferences, the multi-bid conferences. ATS straight up and over under the last 5 years and the last 2 years in round one, round two, round three, and round four. The entire chart will be in the guide. But just so you guys can see the numbers a little easier, we're just going to break down round one for you right here and show you the chart. You'll see that these are in order of the last 5 years ATS records all the way to the left. The Big 12, 69% in round one. The Pac-12, 57%. The Big 10, 56%. The ACC, 55%. The ACC, 33%. The SEC, 42%. And, the Mountain West Conference is not getting any love this year. And people are saying, oh, they got too many bids. And look, besides San Diego State covering a game, the Mountain West Conference had failed to cover 10 games in a row against the spread prior to Colorado State last night. So to me, remember a couple years ago, Teddy and Prez, when everyone was bashing the Pac-12, and what did they do? They had a great run in the tournament, and they made it. They made it to where they are, and you look at to see that they're the number 2 seeded record. So while I look at this, I look more for the totals to the right. Look at the Big 12 over-unders. Round one, 38.5% to the over. Pac-12, 35.7% to the over. Big East round one, 41.5% to the over. So while the ATS numbers show a lot, I don't want to take from one season to the next and automatically throw away a conference or put them as a bad play. It may sway my opinion a little bit more, but I do like looking at the first early rounds, what those conferences do over-under wise, which is the column to the right.
So it's a very interesting chart, Ralph. From my perspective, I don't know how actionable it is. I'm not sure that as you're building a case, maybe you build a case, but there's no way I'm going to look and say, I'm going to bet on this Big 12 team because the last 5 years they've been good or the last 10 years they've been good. Or I'm going to bet against a Mountain West team because in previous years they haven't been good. I guess my question is, how much of this is predictive? Is it predictive? Or is this something that, again, you're building cases, you can make a case here for something, but not anything that you're going to necessarily say, all right, I'm going to predict this is going to continue, these significant trends.
I agree, Teddy. As I said, I don't really look at the ATS numbers to get me onto a conference or off a conference. I do look at it more for the over-unders because the pace of play and the type of defense teams, conferences play, it does make sense to me. Does the Big 12 make sense to me that they go under? Yeah, the Big 10 as well. Those big physical conferences that beat each other up, I think that tends to carry over more than what they would do. And again, we look at situations as a dog and a favorite, but almost every one of those teams in those power conferences were a favorite in round one, or I would say the majority are because they're, most of them are top 6, 7 seeds or 8 seeds, or even if they're the 8, 9 seeds, they're going to be around pick'em. So to me, it shows more of as a favorite. But as I said, I did it as a customer request off Twitter. They asked me to do it, decided to share the chart with you here. And that data, as I said, will all be in the guide.
Ralph, thanks for joining us, my friend. Best of luck during the tournament. I hope you kick ass. I hope every single bet you put out wins, frankly. Unless you're against one of mine. I can accept you losing that. Teddy covers. What did we learn in the wonderful world of sports betting?
We got to talk about NIT overs today because it's 2 days in a row now. We've seen just about every total get bet over from the open. And Ralph was just talking about in the big dance, all of these teams trending under in the first round. That's not the case for the NITs. Last night finished the night 5-4, 5-4 to the over in the 9 NIT games, but there are some asterisks. And this is one of these trends. This is one of these betting angles that makes perfect sense. Ohio State, they're playing all of these slog, bog, physical Big Ten games. Now it's NIT time against some Ivy League school. 88-83 final. There were a $147.5 at DK at the opener. I forget about that because they post so many bad numbers. But there were 150s globally. There were 152.5s in town. Closed 159. All that money won. They ended with 171. And it wasn't the only game like that. North Texas LSU flew over by 25 points against the closing number. South Florida, Central Florida, Iowa, Kansas State, Utah, Cal, Irvine. Even a lot of the losses. The Minnesota Butler game, that scoring died the last 10 minutes. First half went over, looked like an over, but it ended up being a one-possession game down the stretch. So the over lost that game. It wasn't the right side. But, teams from Power 5 leagues that play defense, they didn't play much defense last night. I don't think they will tonight either. Defense requires work. And these teams have been working really hard, especially last weekend. The intensity wasn't there on the defensive end. BC Providence, that game had some juice to it. Richmond, Virginia Tech was just ugly basketball for long stretches, another undercash. That said, you're not going to catch me betting a whole lot of NIT unders. We've seen the market move to the over on many games today. I'm on one of them. And frankly, when it comes to betting totals in the NIT, first round especially, over, the only way to look in many of these games. That's why we're seeing the market go crazy with a lot of these NIT overs in the last couple of days. Lawrence?
Yeah, that's why this show's so amazing, Teddy. I mean, that's spectacular information. I love hearing that kind of stuff. Bryan Power joining us. Bry, yeah, dude, I'm not giving the full Prez personality on this show. I don't know why. I lost my play last night. It really bummed me out. Bummed me out, man. It bummed me out. Plus, we've got so much going on in the back at head office at WagerTalk right now. You know, it's Rick, our CEO, logs on, and he texts me, he slacks me like this much stuff in the middle of a show. Now, most people would ignore that and be like, okay, I could read it after the show. I am not the definition of most people. I obsess. I have ADHD. I have anxiety problems, and I shake when I know something's waiting. I gotta read it. I gotta read it. So I read it, then I gotta respond to it, all live on air. How are you, dude? I know you've been sick the last couple of days.
So what did he say? What's the point?
How are you, Bryan?
Well, you cannot give that story without giving a point to it, dude. You got, like, what did Rick say? What did your response? What promos do we have at WagerTalk this week? You're seriously going to give all of that?
Rick doesn't have anything to do with promos, bro.
You talked about what's going on at the back end at WagerTalk. That's how you set the whole thing up.
Yeah, no, it's corporate shit. I figured at the end
you'd say, this is our promo.
It's corporate shit. You don't need to just piss off, Teddy.
Consider me pissed.
Okay, Bryan, how you feeling, bro?
Well, glad to see the gang is getting along great here. 24 hours before the tournament is underway proper. I'm doing better, Prez, much better than I was doing Monday, quite frankly. Yes, I was sick, but back at it, ready to go, healthy again, and heading to Turning Stone tomorrow in upstate New York for the WagerTalk Watch Party, sponsored by Viva Tequila Seltzer. If anyone is in the area, I highly recommend you show up, as that is going to be a very fun 3+ days of tourney watching at the Turning Stone Resort.
Wow. How many, listen, I fully respect me never being invited to these things. Who the hell
you were invited?
Hang out with? I was not. Who the hell would want to hang out with an old man? I get it. Who's going?
We were all invited, Lawrence.
I know, Teddy. I know, Teddy. But I can't do that to these kids. They want to have fun. They don't want old man who yells at clouds sitting around. Who's going, Bryan?
That was one of those Slack messages that must have slipped through the cracks, Prez. Trig will be there. CT Betts, Mark Zeno will be there. A cast of thousands, quite frankly. At the, what I am told is the newly revamped Turning Stone Resort. It was a smaller operation last year. I guess it's bigger and more beautiful this year, so I can't wait to check it out. It was, in all honesty, a very fun time last year, and I cannot stress enough how much fun it would be for you, the listener, to show up if you are able.
So, just real quick, Bryan, if someone wants to, if I'm sure there are viewers out there that are interested in coming. I don't know how many, but I'm sure there's some of them. If they want to go, what do? They just show up and look for you guys, or how does it work?
You can do that. That's certainly if you want to go rogue. Also, or you can contact Trig on Twitter. He is lead or CT. That is at CT Bets or at Top Flight SI. Obviously, they are running this particular operation. You can check them out on X. DM them for details. They have all the info.
There we go. And he's such a good guy. Such a good guy. And that Viva Seltzer is great. Anyway, well, great for people who drink alcohol. I've had a sip. It tasted good. But that's about as much alcohol as will ever enter my body. New Mexico -2 versus Clemson. This game is Friday. Let's talk about it. And then we're going to get into a game that goes tonight. Bryan, the mic is yours.
Yeah, so New Mexico, Clemson, two programs that have historically struggled in the big dance. Clemson, they've gotten past the first round just once in the last decade. Now, not a ton of appearances in there, to be fair. New Mexico, you go back even further, guys, 1-7 against the number since 99. Obviously, when Ralph was on, he talked about those Mountain West struggles. We'll talk about them more, actually, in our next breakdown as well. But I am siding with the Lobos here. I know, Teddy, it seems like a very trendy pick. If you spend any length of time on Twitter, it seems over the last couple of days, you're going to find people saying, you like New Mexico, or I like New Mexico. And I think it's for good reason, though. You go back to 2001. Here's a trend for you. I'll do my best Ralph Michaels impression. When the 11 seed is a favorite over the 6 seed, going back to 01, 11 seeds, 11-4 straight up and against the number. Last time we saw this was 2 years ago. 11 seed Michigan knocked off 6 seed Colorado State. Now, if you're a Clemson fan, don't be mad at me. I would say be mad at the committee. A big talking point over the 24 hours after the brackets were released is what a horrible job this committee did. I think they did a horrible job, quite frankly. New Mexico, who won the Mountain West tournament, should not be on the same seed line as Duquesne. That is insane. Whereas Clemson, who I was not even sure would be in this tournament on Selection Sunday, should not be on the same seed line as BYU. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. New Mexico, while they were winning the Mountain West Conference tournament and covering their last 6 games, oh, by the way, what did Clemson do in the ACC tourney? How about one and done? They lost by 21 as a 7.5-point favorite to Boston College. Now, obviously, avoiding recency bias is key this time of year when handicapping college hoops, but it's hard to overlook the fact New Mexico, guys, this season, 8 for 8 against the number on a neutral floor, and they have won 22 of the 26 games they've been favored in. I would lay the short number with the Lobos here. If you're juice tolerant, the money line is certainly an option as well. Give me New Mexico in this one.
So New Mexico had the great run in the tournament. Clemson, obviously, in the conference tournament. Clemson obviously didn't. What's your approach in general with teams? One team had a big tournament run, won the title. The other team had a disappointing tournament. Because I tend to look for the team that had a disappointing conference tournament to bounce back in the first round of the big dance. And I'm much less inclined to take teams that just spent a whole lot of energy last weekend and now they have to do it again. Do you share that philosophy? And talk to me about that when it comes to this matchup.
I feel like I'm getting to be a broken record with my answers to these questions for you, Teddy, on the show every week, but it's a case-by-case study. Yes, conceptually, I would normally agree with you. This is kind of an outlier, though, in the sense that I just wasn't really impressed with Clemson. I don't think they're a particularly great team. Again, I think it's crazy that one of the worst at-large teams in the field is a 6 seed, whereas New Mexico, obviously, as Ralph talked about in our last segment, there's been a lot of hand-wringing about how many bids the Mountain West got. I thought New Mexico, even though they fell all the way to the 6th seed in the conference tournament, has been one of the top 2 teams in that conference, along with San Diego State all year. They were underseeded. I had them winning that conference tournament. They've got great guard play. And I go back to that trend, Teddy, 11-4 when the 11th seed is favored of the 6th seed. I think the odds makers are making a statement, and it is a correct statement. New Mexico is a better basketball team.
So you come on the show wearing Clemson's colors, and then you beat the shit out of them.
That's not Clemson's colors.
You know, there's orange in there.
That's a Midwest shirt, dude.
Okay, Teddy. Anything to correct Prez. Colorado at
It's not
Boise
Clemson's
State.
colors. It's
Goes
silliness.
tonight. Colorado at Boise State, Bri, goes tonight. -2.5 for Colorado.
Yeah. These, I guess, are maybe more Boise State colors, perhaps. I don't know if Teddy will agree with that.
Well,
but guess what?
The blue's wrong.
Guess what? Yeah. Oh, well, okay. Well, guess what? I'm going against Boise State here, guys. While we liked the Mountain West in the last game, and last night, obviously, the Mountain West did quite well in the Colorado State-Virginia contest. This is a matchup where both myself and the odds makers do not believe the Mountain West team is the better of the 2 participants. Now, being in this tournament and being better than Virginia, that's a low bar, but Colorado clears that with plenty of room. Just so happens, over the past month, the Buffaloes, top 20 team in the country per Torvik. They'd won 8 straight prior to the Pac-12 tourney final loss to Oregon. And I don't put a lot of stock in that loss to Oregon. It's a game the Ducks had to win to get in. Colorado, although they're in the first 4, I thought was safely in the field going into that game. Again, that's my view, not the committee's perhaps, but obviously they made it nonetheless. I look at this Buffaloes team. I see NBA talent. I see a team that can shoot the 3, 39.4% for the year, and they're going to have a size advantage as well. On the flip side, Boise State, historically, a large contributor to the Mountain West woes in the NCAA tournament. We're talking 0-9 straight up all time in 30 games, including 0-4 under Leon Rice. I know they're on a 6-2 straight up run themselves. 4 of those wins, though, guys, were against Fresno State, San Jose State, Wyoming, and Air Force, otherwise known as the 4 bad teams in the Mountain West. I would lay the short number here with Colorado, who I think is a good basketball team, and I believe would be live in the round of 64 as well. Remember, every year but one, we've seen one of these first 4 teams win at least twice in the tournament. I think Colorado is capable of continuing that trend this year.
So this line's been bet up. The 2s are gone. The 2.5s are gone. Now it's 3 across the board. We're seeing 3.5 starting to pop. Would you bet this on the money line at the current number? Would you still lay the short price with Colorado? Are you worried about that move from 1.5 to 3/3.5?
Yeah, it's a trendy pick, isn't it, Teddy? I would not lay more than 3 for obvious reasons. That's a key number. So, if you're juiced, if you're late to the party here, if you haven't bet Colorado, if you can't get a 3, okay, yeah, at that point, I think you consider a money line option because, it could be a close game, no doubt about it. But at the same time, I really do think Colorado is just a better basketball team here. So if you're not juice tolerant, if you don't want to play the money line, I wouldn't go higher than 3.5, but it's getting a little dicey there. But I don't know. I think Colorado's the better basketball team. I expect them to win, and I would lay 3 or less for sure.
Yeah, so we got another term, a new term, juice intolerant disorder, JID. Bryan Power, before we get into promoting you, I read negative comments about me all the time on air. One of our fine listeners, I own him. One of our fine listeners, Charlie Creations, writes, without knowing it, oh wait, that wasn't it. I got to read this for you. He's like, no, it's good. I can remember it offhand. He wrote,
yeah, we'll come back to it.
He wrote,
right.
I can't believe how annoying Teddy is. I never knew he was that annoying. Wow. So, Bri, I want to share with you, I've known all along how annoying Teddy is. There has almost never been a moment since I met him that I have not known how annoying he is. I'd like you to wade in there. Have you known how annoying Teddy is?
Look, much like that Slack conversation you had with Rick Alec, that seems like a much more high-level conversation that I'm qualified to speak on here at WagerTalk. I just work here. And on that note, if you go to WT.buzz/BP right now, you will find 5 winners for the next 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can get them all for just $29 by NCAA Mega Pass. I will be adding at least one more for tomorrow there. Tonight's play is in the NIT. Teddy in the What's Better Learn segment, to What Bettors Learn, pardon me, Teddy, talked about the NIT. I'm now 7-2 going back to last season in the NIT. I had Boston College last night, an outright winner. I'll co-sign what some of the things Teddy was saying about the NIT. The market is so efficient in the NCAA tournament. The odds makers have all their attention there. You're not going to find bad lines. The NIT last night, I took BC. Why? Providence's best player leading scorer wasn't playing. And that was in addition to Bryce Hopkins having been out for half the year. So I'm attacking the NIT again tonight. I think that's the best bet on Wednesday's card. We're going to have 4 plays tomorrow, and we'll have multiple plays on Friday. You can get the whole shebang, $29, WT.buzz/BP. Also, shout out, I cannot remember their names for the life of me, but the 2 guys I met at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse that were WagerTalk TV fans when I was there for the MAC semifinals, and we were talking about the proliferation of unders in that tournament. It's always great to meet viewers of WagerTalk TV in person.
Yes, it is, bro. I have a wonderful time with Adam and CT and the rest of the gang. Teddy covers. Anything to add? I mean, look, your wife thinks you're annoying. I think you're annoying. I mean, you wear it. You own it, right? Like, you're annoying.
I have no problem with that. It's who I am.
Right?
Look,
No.
You're gonna be who you are. Okay. We done this show for how many years? We did a show before this for how many years? You're gonna be who you are. I remember when Isaac was born, and I'm like, Gonzo, should I not never smoke from him? He's like, dude, your kid's gonna figure out who you are. You're not gonna hide anything from your kid. It's like, you are who you are. Yeah, I'm annoying. I know, by the way, the reason BYU is on that same seed line that he was complaining about is because BYU had to be dropped a seed because they don't play on Sundays. They were a seed lower than they should be to accommodate their religious preferences.
Okay.
Is that annoying?
No, that was not annoying. I mean, I'm happy to rate every segment you do 1 to 10 on annoying. Maybe we'll run that tomorrow. It's time for your big game breakdown, brother.
It is big game breakdown. Let's talk your late night bailout special Thursday night, the last game. scheduled to tip. Who knows? If we see overtimes, it might not be the last game that tips. That being said, Washington State and Drake, looking at the WagerTalk live odds screen, and that's scheduled for a 10:05 Eastern time tip-off. Drake Wazoo right now. I'm seeing Drake minus 1.5 pretty much across the board. Total 137.5/138. So one of the advantages of living in Las Vegas, you spend time in sports books and you hear a fair bit of buzz about teams. And I'll tell you what, there's been one is consistent all year long, walking around town, talking to other bettors, talking to guys I know, talking to guys I don't know, talking to voices I respect. There isn't a soul out there that seems to trust Washington State. Nobody trusts them. Nobody believes in them. And the cross-section of bettors that I talk to here in Vegas, probably, I'm not going to say it is a microcosm of the college basketball betting marketplace, but it kind of is. And there's a legit level of disrespect for this team. What's happened? They've been undervalued commodity consistently, 12-6 in their last 18 ball games. They went on a 10-2 ATS run, cooled off a little bit down the stretch. 12-6 overall, their last 18. Look, Drake hasn't been lined at higher than +4 in any game all year. It's not like they've routinely stepped up in class and dominated. Yes, they beat Indiana State, the super team that didn't make the tournament. That doesn't make a bet on here. Certainly, when we look at some of the Mountain West, the Missouri Valley teams in the Big Dance, not like it's a great track record here. Let's not forget how Bradley got bombed in their tourney opener against Wisconsin last year after the long layoff. But for me, this is all about Washington State. It's a very good team from a program that hasn't been good. They beat Arizona twice. They won at Oregon. They won at USC. They won at Stanford. They won at Washington. They won at Oregon. This isn't a team that I'm afraid to support away from home. And I think they're an undervalued commodity here. I think they should be favored, and they're dogs. Yeah, take Wazoo +1.5. It is a client play for me on Thursday. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Teddy covers. We need some more likes. If you guys want a couple of NHL bets in the daily presidential address, I need 31 more likes. Theodore Robert has made a very good point. He wrote, wow, Prez calling someone annoying. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Yeah. Both of us are annoying to each other more than anybody else. That's for damn sure.
Welcome to WagerTalk Today, the show with two annoying hosts.
Yeah.
But lots of good actionable information.
That'll be, you know what? We got it. Dan, I need that
That's
as our
intro?
slogan. I want that as our slogan. Welcome to WagerTalk TV with two annoying hosts who are aging badly. Rob Veno joining us. Robert, we're not going to go on. We're going to end this show if you don't answer this question. Who is more annoying, Teddy or I?
It's not close. I'm not worried about this one.
I mean, that answer has to, you can't put me in that spot. I've known Teddy 25 years.
Then pick
been
me.
Very good friends. And I've never been annoyed by Teddy for 25 years. So I have to, by process of elimination, I have to pick you, Prez. If I have to answer the question, it's the way it's got to be. 25 years, he's never annoyed me.
Okay.
You, 5 years. You're 5 years.
Guys, put up in the comment section put up in the comment section after the show goes live. Just one word, Teddy. I'll know what it means. Okay,
I love
Rob.
the slogan, though. I do love the slogan. That's awesome.
It is. Yeah,
that's a winner.
It really is. Gotta get
it's a solid slogan, dude. Okay, you got a CBB future bet for us. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, I'm going to look at Marquette, guys, to reach the Sweet 16. They're going to be in this Indianapolis region, which is close in proximity. So that's one good thing. But, I mean, obviously, the biggest thing you want to talk about here is the fact that Tyler Kolek, the point guard, is back. Listed now as probable, but he's practicing with the team. Shaka Smart says the plan is for him to go. A couple other minor injuries suffered in the Big East tournament final against UConn. Oso Ikadaro, their big man, sat the last 7 minutes. Stevie Mitchell played with a bad shoulder. But Shaka Smart said there's no question they're out there. So they're going to be out there in full force with the starting lineup. Let's start with the first round game against Western Kentucky. which you see they're a double-digit favorite, money line like minus 1,200 or whatever. Western Kentucky, one-trick pony, brings one thing to the table. They're the fastest tempo team in the nation. Interesting that Marquette, per offensive possession, they're the ninth fastest team in the country, only 15.3 seconds per possession. So they can run with them. They've got better horses. They're the 22nd ranked offensive efficiency team in the league. So not only do they, or in the country, not only do they run, but they score when they run. And I would say this, CUSA presents a list of opponents for Western Kentucky with relatively no physical play whatsoever, while Marquette grinds through the Big East. So lots of advantages there. Maybe a little bit of a coach job for Marquette to get Kolek back into the flow of things. Meanwhile, if you get them through the first round, you got to get them through the second round to cash this ticket. It's either going to be Florida opposing them or the winner of tonight's Colorado-Boise State game, which Bryan Power just talked about and analyzed. If they get Florida, guys, I would side with Marquette. Simply put, Florida's played little to no defense for quite some time now under Todd Golden. He's done a terrific job with them offensively, but defensively, they've given up 79 or more in 6 straight games, and they did lose their starting center to a fractured leg in the SEC final on Sunday. It's going to be used as a motivator by the team, by the coach. I mean, Todd Golden was even quoted as saying, this is not a setback, it's an opportunity. Good coach speak. I don't know if it translates to that particular matchup. But there's a defensive disparity there between Marquette and Florida that exists where I'll take my chances with the Marquette team. And then if it's Colorado or Boise State, whichever one gets there, guys, and I know it's not a blanket statement, but I'll apply it here. Third game in 5 days, second different city. And for either one of those teams, it's going to be a grind. They got to go through each other. Then they have to go through Florida. Then they get to Marquette, who's probably pretty well rested and prepped. Couple of notes on Colorado real quick, and I know they were injured. Tourney team Arizona in their conference. They've lost to by 20 plus twice this year. 1-1 against Washington State, a team Teddy just talked about. And they did lose that Pac-12 championship game where they were favored to beat Oregon. So I think minus 135 was cheap as I went through all of those guys. It seems like a nice path for Marquette. Nice location, nice mix of opponents. Give me Marquette minus 135 to make it to the Sweet 16.
So I guess when it comes to a follow-up for this one, I don't have a lot. My biggest question is how is the return for Kolek going to be seamless for this team, or do we worry at all that bringing your star player back after an absence, sometimes there's some hiccups in that first game or two back?
I think the latter, Teddy. I think there's hiccups, but I also think that the opponent gives them the opportunity to stumble through some hiccups and still win. They're a minus 1,200 favorite in that game, and they should beat Western Kentucky. It's not really that close personnel-wise. So even with some hiccups, they stumble through. Let's say they don't cover. Who cares? We're trying to cash a ticket to get into the Sweet 16. But I think that game will give them, whatever he plays, 30-plus minutes of action back under his belt to take on the second-round team, which would be tougher. So, yeah, I'd expect some hiccups, but I don't think it'll be a problem as far as winning the game.
Rob Veno, everyone. Rob, we're running out of time. You got another bet for us on Philly and Phoenix. Phoenix team total over 115.5. Tell us why you like that. And also, no follow-up from Teddy. Feel free to promote, my brother.
Well, let's go quick, guys. I played the Phoenix team total here. It's open 114.5. I played over 115.5, which is where it sits right now. If you just look at last 5 game numbers, you're going to say, why are you playing that? Because the numbers make it look like it's a slow-paced game with no scoring available. However, you got to sift through all these games, right, guys? I mean, the last 5 teams that Phoenix has played, they're all on the road. 3 of the 5 games, 2 were against Boston, 1 against Cleveland. That's 2 of the top 5 defenses in the NBA. Tough to score against those guys. Still, the Suns managed 112 and 117 in a couple of those games. And then the 4th game was against Charlotte, who's the 5th slowest team in the NBA. And it was a road back-to-back. So you can almost excuse them for not getting over 115.5 in that game. The only game that they had versus a team willing to run versus a team that could pick up the tempo was Milwaukee, and they scored 129 in that contest. The Sixers, look at them real quick with Tyrese Maxey back. They are a quicker team, but it doesn't show up in the last 5 numbers. Last 5 games they played, 4 versus Miami, Charlotte, and 2 versus the Knicks. Again, 4 of the 5 bottom 5 tempo teams in the NBA. Makes sense that those games would be lower score. It makes their defense look better, makes their offense look lesser, makes them look like a slow-paced team. Matchups aren't good tonight. They might not have Tobias Harris, arguably their best defensive player on the front line. Paul Reed against Nurkic is not a good matchup in the middle. They have no real matchups for Devin Booker or Kevin Durant on this team. The fourth quarter woes of Phoenix you'd bring up, they still average 25. It's dead last in the NBA, don't get me wrong, but they do average 25 a game in the fourth quarter. So if you get to 91 after 3, you feel real comfortable.
Yep.
I don't think the fourth quarter will be a problem. We're going to play over 115.5 Phoenix team total.
And what do you got going for the clients?
Hey, let's talk about this, Prez, because I have not had a 5% play in college basketball all season long yet. We're going to have one within the next 30 minutes. I'm going to post it here as soon as I get done with you guys. First 5% blue chip of the season. Going to come in NCAA Tournament action. So go ahead and visit. Give me like 30 minutes and go visit the page and get the first one of the season. So once again, first 5% blue chip up and available, WagerTalk.com.
Brilliant stuff. Rob Veno, everyone. Outstanding show. We are back tomorrow, everybody, at noon Eastern. We'll watch the games together. Teddy covers. It's time for the daily presidential address. Okay, guys, there's 3 NHL games going tonight. I got bets for you on 2 of them. I do want to mention that I have my first 5% college basketball play of the season going on Friday. It is up now. Last year, I had 5 college basketball 5% plays. I went 5-0. Haven't lost one in 2 years, but I haven't released one this entire season. So the first one goes tomorrow. I got 1 college basketball play up tonight, and I have a 3-pack for Thursday, locked and loaded. If you buy it for only $19, I put in a futures bet as a bonus. Just to let everyone know, I'm up over 50 units in college basketball on the season. I'm on a 13-5 run. I won last night. I won the night before, and I won the night before that as well. Okay, let's get into it. I like the Leafs tonight. Yep, homer play. I don't care. Whatever you say, that's what I like. One of the biggest angles in NHL is to bet on a team coming home off of a long road trip. An even better angle is to bet, against a team coming home after a long road trip. An even better angle, bet against a team coming home after a long road trip out west. Out west. You know what I'm saying. That's where Washington sits tonight. They're playing outstanding hockey. They've won 3 games in a row. They just beat Calgary, Vancouver, and Seattle. They now come home. They play their first game back from a road trip out west. They play the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are without question a better team than them, who are coming off of 2 losses. They just lost last night to Philadelphia. Great spot to bet the Leafs. Would have released them. Didn't love the number. It has come down, though, to about minus 130. So I think we're seeing some value there. And as for the second bet, Arizona and Dallas. Look, the total is 6.5 plus money. There are 6s out there. I love the over in this game at 6. At 6.5, I like it, but I'm not going to bet it. So if you can find a 6, take over the total. If you can find a 6.5 only, lay off. That's it for the daily presidential address. Teddy, let's kick ass, bro. Take us home.
I'm in favor of kicking ass. That being said, wishing it won't make it happen. We have to have picked, hopefully, some right sides and be on the right side of some of these lucky finales tonight and moving forward. Anyhow, I don't know what I'm saying. That's going to wrap it for Wednesday's Wager Talk Today. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel. Enjoy the games and best of luck.